Hey there, Jordan Chariton live, Status Coup. Hope everybody's having a lovely day right here in the United Corporations of America. It is, what the hell day is it? Tuesday, June 14th. The year is 2022, and a lot going on. Where do we start? But first, I want to tell you, please smash that like button. It's the thumbs up right under the live stream. The more people that press that like, the more people that will see this live stream. Share the live stream. Sharing is caring. Super chats, welcome. We'll read that at the end. Joining me now, Steve Grumbine of Real Progressives. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Wonderful. I just had my first physical therapy for my ACL, which I tore, and it hurt like a motherfucker. So that's what's going on. I will definitely be icing or doing some other things to numb the pain later. But you're the right guy to have on because apparently the crypto bubble has burst. The stock market is crashing. The recession is coming. But if you didn't know any better, listening to Joe Biden this afternoon, you'd think it's I don't know, a booming utopian economy. So we're going to go over that. We also have Bernie Sanders preemptively declaring he's going to support Joe Biden in 2024. Why? I have no idea. So we'll go over that. January 6th committee, we're not going to really talk about that. But if you want to talk about trying to overturn an election, Amazon right now is trying to overturn the historic union victory of the Staten Island workers, which we covered on the ground yesterday. So we'll talk about that. The workers were rallying in Phoenix in 104-degree weather. We had a camera person out there to cover that. And I'm also going to have a guest on later to talk about the restaurant's Bill of Rights. Don't forget those restaurant workers who have been screwed during this pandemic and basically screwed since the beginning of time. But Steve, let's begin with Biden's economic speech. I'm not going to blame him for it all. I'm not going to blame everything on him for gas, food, rent, all that. But you'd have to think he was living in a different country with this cheery nonsense. In front of the AFL-CIO today, big union man Joe Biden spoke at the AFL-CIO. Colin, let's play clip number one.
Approach I've taken to build this economy. And what has to be done? Well, we brought down COVID deaths by 90%. We opened schools and businesses that were shuttered. It all created the greatest job recovery in American history. People don't want to talk about these days, but it's true. Since I've become president, we've created 8.7 million new jobs in 16 months, an all-time record. And even last month, 390,000 jobs and 600,000 new manufacturing jobs. They said manufacturing is dead in America. Look, folks, our unemployment rate is near historic lows, 3.7%, and millions of Americans are leaving. I love these guys talking about why these guy left my employment, went to another job, because he got paid more. Isn't that awful? Isn't that a shame that they got to compete for labor? Better paying jobs, for better jobs for them and their families. It's been a long time since that's happened in this country, but it's happening now, and it's working. Since I took office, with your help, families are carrying less debt nationwide. They have more savings nationwide. More Americans applied for new small businesses last year than ever before in American history. 5.4 million new small business applications. Jobs and companies are coming home again. We're making Buy American a reality, not just a slogan.
Steve, I don't know where to start. This kind of reminds me of Obama talking about the record number of jobs he made, as you know, that just sea of foreclosure signs were coming all over the country. Colin, if you have the link I just sent you, if you don't, it's okay. But I just sent Colin because he was talking about how wages are up, which peripherally they have been. But when you take into account inflation, real wages are actually plunging at a record rate as cost of living crisis takes hold. Bankers toast huge bonuses and average pay rise of 10.6% as nurses and teachers see value of earnings fall sharply. Your thoughts on the rosy picture from the president?
This rosy picture from the president, somebody said it in the chat. It was really great, actually. I'd love to pull it up. The fact is that when you're in the middle of a pandemic and you come out of a pandemic after millions of people lost their jobs during a pandemic, and suddenly you're taking credit for the people coming back to work, it's I don't know, it's typical vote blue no matter who Biden right there, right?
Right.
But it also comes down to something more fundamental. We have not talked about real economics in this country pretty much ever. Most of the media outlets out there are so clueless about economics that they don't have the ability to take a position on things. They don't have the ability to slice through the bullshit. So they just let these people just say whatever they want, uncontested, just absolutely without any pushback whatsoever. It's alternative media, it's mainstream media, it's media everywhere. So when a guy like Biden speaks like this, you have nothing to judge from other than your heart. And feelings lie to you. You have a bad bowl of spaghetti the night before, suddenly you got gas the next day. So that's not a way to judge the economy. You got to have an understanding. Biden, what he has done, number one, is lied big time, because all these jobs coming back are shit jobs, number one. And the jobs that are coming back right now, the pay is not keeping up with the inflation. He has done nothing to quell inflation whatsoever, because he's a free market guy that believes in free market solutions. And just like Buttigieg and the rest of the gang, will do absolutely nothing to curtail the behavior of monopoly powers, abusive market powers, none of that crap. They're not going to do anything. They're not going to fund enforcement. They're not going to put any price caps. They're not going to do anything. They're not going to provide a job guarantee. And the money that most people got had nothing to do with Biden, because Biden couldn't even deliver on his $2,000 checks. He lied about that too. I hate to thank Trump, but the Trump era gave more money during the pandemic than Biden did. So with all that said and done, naturally people are locked in their houses. They haven't spent anything. So what do they do with the bit of money that they are getting? Maybe they did pay down some debt. Maybe they did go ahead and protect themselves from the next time the Democrats decide to go and raise interest rates and raise taxes and do all the other crap that kills an economy. So it wouldn't shock me at all if Biden went around trumpeting, hey, the sun rose today. That's about the equivalent of what he's celebrating right here. And bringing jobs back to America, bringing the manufacturing jobs back to America, that's nothing to celebrate either. What we're talking about here is a fundamental issue of they cut off Russia. They've completely taken away any global perspective, which is fine. I don't mind that. But don't act like you did something great here. What you did was you created a proxy war, a Cold War, to make it so that we had to bring some of the manufacturing back. What you realized was the neoliberal way of spreading your supply chains throughout the world didn't work. And so now you're having to bring some vital manufacturing back home. Okay, so all this stuff is him taking credit for it. Number one is shameful. Number two, acting like it's a good economy is even more shameful. Okay, so Jordan, we have got a problem in this country, and it's economic illiteracy. The vote blues are going to cheer Biden on like he's the second coming of the Lord Jesus Christ, who has just gotten off the cross himself to go ahead and bless the sinners. He is literally an unabashed asshole. And this is what you get. I mean, for real, this is pathetic. The gas prices are not really his fault. That's one thing I will tell you. It's not really his fault. But their free market mindset is their fault. He has done absolutely nothing to quell the gouging that's going on, and he's done really nothing meaningful to build back better, if you will, the infrastructure that would have solved the supply chain issues domestically. He's next to Jimmy Carter, and we can get into that some other time. He may be the worst president of my lifetime.
Now, I don't want you to go too far because we have other clips to play. So if I let you go,
I'll go, man. I could do 3 hours straight on, man. You know,
we have some other clips because it gets worse, including his deficit diarrhea, which is the most animated I even saw him got. Everything else, he was kind of just talking, reading his script. When he talks about the deficit, his eyes light up like he's on, It's a Small World ride in Disney World. Smash that like button, thumbs up, share this live stream. We'll read your super chats at the end. Colin, let's play the next clip.
Hey, Republicans like to portray me as some kind of big spender. We have spent a lot of money. But let's compare the facts. Under my predecessor, the deficit exploded, rising every single year, and all of the benefit going to the top 1%, basically. Under my plan, last year, we cut the deficit by $350 billion. Doing all this. You know, they talk about Biden wants to spend more on schools and all this. Guess what? He's going to create a deficit. Ladies and gentlemen, this year, by the end of the fiscal year, we will have cut the federal deficit by another $1.6 trillion in 1 year. 1 year. So when they come to you and talk about big spenders, let them know. Almost $2 trillion in deficit reduction. I don't want to hear any more of these lies about reckless spending. We're changing people's lives.
You're killing us, Joe. You're killing us, you fucker.
And because of the facts, this year, we're delivering the biggest drop in deficit in the history of the United States of America.
Oh, my God. Look how excited he got.
But worse, there's human beings that fucking clap for that horrific shit.
Actually, the deficit thing got the least clap of anything. They didn't really care. But it's interesting. Look how fierce he was against the Republicans there and animated, and it actually sounded lucid and good. Imagine if he got that fucking fierce and angry at Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, demanding that they vote to end the filibuster. He's not going to do it. But imagine for a second if he got that fierce against the Senate parliamentarian, Sinema and Manchin, anyone in his way to help those union folk. But he doesn't because his donors won't allow it. Steve, before we respond to that, Colin put this together. There's probably more examples, but we got 30 seconds. Suddenly, he's saying, enough with you people calling me a big spender. He had a much different tune during the primary. You remember this?
You're going to pay for it. I want to hear tonight how that's happened. You can't run for president and beat Donald Trump without leveling with the American people what you're going to do and how you're going to pay for it. I know how to get it done, to go out and pass it, and I know how to cover it. If you notice, some of our opponents or good people are struggling to tell you how in God's name they're going to pay for anything.
Oh, my God. Was that trying to set me up? Were you trying to set me up there for like a haymaker? Elbow off the top rope?
To hell with you, Republicans. We're changing people's lives. I don't know how. Colin showed the chart. Whose lives are being changed? We have a 40-year bank robbery. Income inequality is out of control. This is the U.S. compared to Europe and Western Europe. But whose lives are we changing? The ones who got evicted during the pandemic, even despite the moratorium, which I showed on the ground, people were getting evicted, or the people being evicted now, or the homeless people being swept up in New York City, D.C., L.A., Chicago, Washington. I mean, the list goes on and on. The people who literally are spending $100 for gas. I mean, whose lives are being changed right now? But my question to you is simple. I mean, does he actually believe that the economy is good right now? Or is this just Joe being Joe? Let's, say say my daddy told me a job is dignity, sell it. Or, because if he actually believes this, then we're in deep trouble.
I asked Warren Mosler the other day, I said, do you think Joe Biden is doing a good job? And he laughed and he said, for who? Doing a good job for who? Right? And when you think about this, the rank and file voter thinks deficit reduction is a good thing. And so whenever you tell a truth to someone that doesn't understand what you're saying, they get angry. There are people that get angry at me for an awful lot of things that are just simply unknowledgeable about the subject. So when you talk about this, you see Biden up there. He knows the average person is thinking about their own bank account, thinking about, oh my God, He's saving me my tax money so that I don't have to, scrape and scrounge, for food. He's selling a lie. But if you go, there's a great study about austerity is social murder. Okay. Now I want you to understand something. When I heard him talking about that, I felt like I was watching him drop babies into boiling water and celebrating it, because that's what austerity is. It's murder. Okay. Social murder. And for people that don't get this stuff, they get upset. Trust me, the problem is not mine. The problem is that you don't understand what I'm saying. And I'm here to tell you the deficit, reducing the deficit, is a bona fide fiscally conservative, anti-progressive murder zone. It is the kill shot. It's the financial bullet that nobody accepts as murder, but it is absolutely murder. And for those people out there who don't understand this stuff, I beseech you, I beg you, I plead with you. Learn that Joe Biden and his ilk and those who wish to reduce the deficit, those who celebrate deficit reduction, are not your friend. I don't care if you're a vote blue. I don't care if you wear the party colors, wear the pork pie hat and celebrate and wave flags and pom-poms. I'm telling you, when you hear deficit reduction, it is like literally dropping poor babies into a vat of hot oil. That is not a good thing. It is not a good thing for a country, for any country that issues its own currency, to celebrate the reduction of deficits. That is real money out of the economy, deleted, not repurposed, not saved up for a rainy day to spend. This is literally deleted money, taking money out of the economy. So they're getting you on two ends. They're raising interest rates, which I know we're going to talk about later, which is taking more money out of your pocket and giving it to the rich, while simultaneously reducing deficits, which takes away real money from you and I. So we're getting hit on both ends. And swear to God, there's people out there right now celebrating this stuff, acting like I don't know what I'm talking about. And I'm here to tell you folks, you got to get on this program. You got to learn that man just broke out an AR-15 right now, monetary style, and is opening aim on all of us. This is not a good thing. Do not ever celebrate this.
Colin, is there any more clips from that? I think there was one more.
Remember when our economy was like what it looked like before we took office? 3,000 Americans are dying every day from COVID. 20 million Americans had lost their jobs on the last guy. In fact, so many Americans lost their jobs that my predecessor became just the second president in history to leave office with fewer jobs in America than when he took office. But you stepped up. The other one, by the way, was Herbert Hoover. And just remember those long lines of cars stretching miles back waiting for just a box of food to be put back in their trunk? It wasn't just poor folk. It was working class folks, middle class folks. A lot of pretty nice cars in those lines. And while it was going on, America created more billionaires during that crisis in 2020 than any year in history. Talk about a contrast. Ordinary people waiting in line for an hour for a box of food. And the policies in the past created more billionaires than ever in American history. Folks, it's hard to believe, but it's true. That's what we inherited. And then with your help, we went to work with an economic vision that looks out from Scranton, Pennsylvania, hardworking towns like it all across America, not down from Wall Street. Wall Street didn't build this country. The middle class built this country, and unions built the middle class.
Now, sorry.
I'm not joking.
Sorry,
without unions.
Without unions. Now, I'm sorry to my union folk, because Status Coup has covered the union movement more than any other independent outlet in the United Corporations of America. For those Status Coup OGers, you remember in 2019, I was in Detroit. I was in Ohio when General Motors laid off 15,000 workers. I was covering it. I went to those union halls. I talked to workers who were laid off. We showed you this after, by the way, GM got a $51 billion bailout from the U.S. government. They laid off 15,000 workers. We were there. We were on the ground. covering the Amazon workers trying to unionize. We were just on the ground in Phoenix covering that the other day, which we're going to go over in a little bit. We were on the ground covering the Buffalo workers, Starbucks workers trying to unionize. So we don't just talk it, we cover it. And it's not profitable to cover unions in this country. We do it because it's important. But I got to send a message to the AFL-CIO. You guys are fucking suckers. Any unions that are, and by the way, I don't think it's all the rank and file. I think it's the leadership that are making their rank. I think it's the leadership that are making their workers sit through these speeches. But you guys are suckers. Colin, the first fundraiser this man did in 2020, I sent it to you, Colin, was with Comcast, a union busting company. That was the first fundraiser he did. He's done fundraiser after fundraiser, donor after donor that is union busters. Okay, this is not a friend of the unions. I don't care what his daddy told him about dignity. Okay, and by the way, I came from Scranton. This guy has been a millionaire for many, many years. He doesn't give a damn about unions. If he did, his administration would not have just given Amazon another $10 billion contract after Amazon is literally sweating workers to death in Staten Island and elsewhere. We just covered the Amazon workers organizing in Phoenix because Amazon is trying to overturn the results of their historic election. And workers in Phoenix are talking about they're working in 100-degree weather daily in Phoenix. That's the Amazon workers. So to the AFL-CIO and anybody else that actually thinks this man is a union man because he puts out words that are pro-union, his money that he gets, his policies are not pro-union. And by the way, if he cared so much about the PRO Act, he'd fight for it. Your thoughts?
You said it. I mean, Biden, everything that Joe Biden does, the idea of a middle class, again, this vaunted middle class, this thing is intended to build up enough people in the middle, so to speak, to make us not care about the bottom. It's to keep us divided so we lose sense of what class interests are. Okay. The idea of propping up the middle, the vaunted middle, is just a bulwark against the people that are struggling and suffering. It has always been that way. And how does somebody that has everything measure themselves in a world where they don't know how to? I mean, the bottom line is they measure each other by the distance between themselves and the person below. Biden represents the people at the top. He does not represent the lower class, the middle class, and all the other fake classes that they come up with. The bottom line is we're all working class people. We're all labor. We're the 99%. And it's time to start fighting back because this guy doesn't support unions. He really, truly does not support unions. He sat there and literally celebrated gutting the economy. I mean, imagine celebrating $2 trillion of deficit reduction. That's $2 trillion that didn't need to leave the economy. That's $2 trillion that will be struggling to find somewhere, that businesses will eventually start laying people off, that we can't spend on purchasing things to keep businesses alive. And in the end, what's going to happen? We're going to have a recession or depression. Joe will be, off in there, some sundowner place, enjoying retirement while his backup comes in and suffers through the recession or depression that he created. It's awful. And the poor unions out there that buy into this crap. I mean, I've got friends that are high up in unions right now that are saying it's an absolute shit show. People just simply aren't ready to hear the truth about what's going on. They need their heroes. They need their fake programs and policies that they're running with that suck, that can't get the job done, but they make people feel good. So they support the wrong things anyway. It's an epidemic in this country, and the progressives are no different than they are. So we've got a lot of people out there supporting the wrong things. And Joe Biden is just the king of it all. So the unions are screwed here.
Before we move on to Joe's friend, Bernie, because Bernie says my friend Joe, I want to just, for those of you that don't know, I hate to say it, but I'm not an economist. It looks like a full-blown recession is coming. Colin, if we could just kind of go lightning round. U.S. gas now averaging $5.10 per gallon. I mean, that is absolutely insane. If you drive to work, which many people do, if you sit in traffic, if your commute is, I don't know, if you're lucky, 15, 20 minutes, if you're unlucky, an hour to 2 hours, that's absolutely devastating. And you're going to have to cut costs elsewhere in places that you really can't afford to cut costs to afford that kind of gas. I mean, I have a hybrid Toyota, and it cost me $55, I think, the other day, and it's a small car. So that's number one. And this is from Heather Long, who does good reporting on the economy for the Washington Post. I mean, just look at this. Groceries plus almost 12%, biggest increase since 1979. Chicken plus 17.4%, largest ever. Restaurants up 9%, largest ever. By the way, we're going to have a guest in a little bit about the Restaurants Bill of Rights, Restaurant Workers Bill of Rights, which I'm looking forward to having her. Fuel up 107%, largest ever. Electricity up 12%, largest since 2006. Rent up 5.2%. Yeah, this, I don't know where she's getting it, because if you go into the cities, it's up 20 to 30%. Largest since 1987. Airfare up 38%, largest since 1980. Services up 5.7%, largest since 1990. Then you look at, it's not just gas, food, and used car price that are way up. Rents are rising quickly, and that's one of the biggest budget items for many families. Again, this might technically be the numbers overall. You go to cities, it's much higher than 5%. Then you look at the 30-year fixed mortgage is now 6.18%. That's nearly double the 3.3% rate at the start of the year. And as you mentioned, the Fed may discuss the biggest interest rate increase since 1994. And Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell is on the record saying his fix for all of this, we got to get wages down. That's the problem. We got to get wages down. And I'll say, Steve, not all of this is Biden's fault, but a lot of this has to just do with price gouging. He could go ham on these companies. I give you John F. Kennedy against the steel companies in the 1960s before he was offed. Okay. He went head to head. I think it was U.S. Steel, and U.S. Steel backed down and lowered its prices. There's been other examples of presidents directly going at companies that are price gouging. This Biden will gingerly mention, corporate greed. He's not going to go after these companies. Why? Because his main focus right now, and the Democratic Party's main focus right now, is fundraising for the midterms. So you can't bite the hand that feeds you. His donors are the ones price gouging. But your thoughts, obviously, you are the resident MMTer, modern monetary theory. But explain for dummies, why is Federal Reserve Chairman talking about hiking interest rates during horrible inflation? Not to mention, he thinks the answer to all of this is driving wages down.
So imagine what you just said is like a bunch of pieces of a puzzle on a board, and you put all those spots up there and you put it together and you get the picture. But right now it's just a bunch of stuff all over the board. Ultimately, the idea has always been the Federal Reserve is there to create price stability and full employment. However, they keep this little thing called NARU. Okay. The idea of keeping a certain amount of people unemployed is a key part of their idea of fighting inflation. Okay. So suppressing wages, they always put it on the workers when there's no meaningful data out there that shows wage have anything to do with the price increases whatsoever. Add in the worst of it, the hikes, the actual interest rate hikes. This is intended to create unemployed people. It's also a basic income for the wealthy, as I've said many, many times. So at the start of this, at the bottom of this, this is all about disciplining labor. It's about disciplining labor, keeping labor down, okay, to allow the business cycle includes a churn and burn. It includes recapturing lost capital, includes recapturing lost homes, old cars that had to be let go of, repossessions, all that stuff. It's all part of this thing that goes on. And what we got is the Federal Reserve doing what it's always done, which is the Milton Friedman neoliberal Paul Volcker. All these words I'm throwing at you. Paul Volcker was the Fed chair during the OPEC scare in the 70s under Carter. He was the guy who jacked interest rates up through the roof to the point where the economy collapsed and made Reagan even possible. Okay. That's who Paul Volcker is. And when you talk about Milton Friedman was the economist who destroyed Chile with Pinochet, and he was also the one that started and led and created the body of knowledge that gave the basis for neoliberalism, aka austerity politics. The idea that printing money creates inflation, which is a lie. This is all that you're seeing right here playing out from not only Jerome Powell, but from Joe Biden. Think about what I'm saying. They have a D in front of their name. They are literally behaving like free market, anarcho-capitalist, libertarian fools, free market fools, destroying us. I want you to be aware. This is not an accident. Know your history. These guys are a damn disgrace. Biden is right there, part of this, folks. You elected him. He is your guy. You've got to talk to him. You want to pull him left. You want to do whatever. That's your guy. You swore. Everybody swore he's going to be the greatest thing since FDR. There you go. You got to pull him left. There you go.
Let's chill with it. Everyone didn't declare he's going to be the greatest. The New York Times,
Sanders,
the New York Times, the Washington Post, and all these propaganda rags that did the headlines. Is Biden the new FDR? I certainly.
I tell you right now, Bernie Sanders, the heart of our movement, tells the world. Joe Biden, I think Joe Biden is going to be the greatest president since FDR. He could be. You know,
and we need to immediately make a meme of that terrible impersonation. All right,
yes,
that's a good segue. That's a good segue. We have to get to Bernie. And by the way, smash the like button. We almost
wait. Somebody said bullshit. Bernie never said that. Can we go ahead and just do a quick fact check? Because Bernie did say that.
He didn't say. He said he has the opportunity to
be the next FDR.
Right. He something like that. So he linked FDR and Biden in the same sentence. Yes, he did. But smash the like button. We have almost 400 people watching. The more people that like, it'll get the viewership up. So Steve, you know how it goes. You can't win. Some people say you're a Bernie bro and you are drool over him. And then if you criticize him, you're not being fair. I'm going to call it like
I cried on camera when Bernie lost. I mean, literally everybody was teasing me and talking. Anyway, go on. I'm sorry.
So with the caveats, I appreciate everything Bernie has done. He's been a great person for the movement. He's brought in millions of people, yada, yada, yada. He isn't God, and you got to criticize him when he should be criticized. So Bernie preemptively, I mean, we don't even know if Biden's running again. You listen to Biden when he's not talking about the deficit. It seems like he's struggling just with stamina and things like that. But Bernie says he will support Biden re-election bid and will not run against him. Bernie said on Monday that he would support a re-election bid by President Biden if he decides to run for another term. Comments that came one day after progressive Congressman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez declined to say whether she would endorse a Biden campaign. But she still had to sneak in that he's doing a very good job, which I thought was insane. All right. Actually, let's show that. Colin, you have the AOC clip just so people can see it.
Ask about President Biden. He is saying he's going to run again in 2024. Will you support him?
You know, if the president chooses to run again in 2024, I mean, first of all, I'm focused on winning this majority right now and preserving a majority this year in 2022. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But I think if the president has a vision, then that's something certainly we're all willing to entertain and examine when the time comes.
That's not a yes.
Yeah, you know, I think we should endorse when we get to it. But I believe that the president has been doing a very good job so far. And, you know, should he run again, I think that I think it's we'll take a look at it.
Oh, God, right now, stop it. And the funny thing is, everybody was crediting her on Twitter. Oh, she won't back Biden. There's no reason you need to say he's doing a very good job. That's insane. But we'll get to her in a minute. First of all, let's just put aside for a second whether Bernie is actually going to support Biden and the fact that that's absurd that he feels that way. I could get to why I think he feels that way, but put that aside. I covered Bernie's 2016 campaign. I covered his 2020 campaign, not in a studio. I was at a lot of rallies. I was going around the Bernie wave. I went all over this country covering Bernie. And one of my favorite things that he said was, you don't start a negotiation offering half a loaf. You demand the full damn loaf. Another bad Bernie impersonation.
I was going to say, we're memeing the fuck.
Right. I want the full damn loaf. Why in the hell would Bernie Sanders, because if Biden's going to run again, and who knows, but if he's going to run again, if it's against Trump or DeSantis, I would say right now, he's the underdog. He's not popular. COVID is basically the major reason that Trump lost. I think DeSantis would beat Biden, which is scary because DeSantis is a more competent Trump. But why would you preemptively, without getting one concession, not one executive order from Biden on anything real, not one promise delivered by him, $15 minimum wage, public option, $2,000 checks. I could keep going. Why would you preemptively, getting nothing, say you're going to, not only that you're not going to run, but that you're going to support him? It is political malpractice is an understatement. It is horrendous and basically shows what I've been saying for years. Bernie Sanders, he is a revolutionary at heart, but not in practice, because this continues to just bring a spoon to a knife fight. And you're giving Joe, and now let's say Bernie Sanders changed his mind and he wants to run against Joe Biden. Now you're on the record saying, no, I'm going to support him. So the media has a line against you that you're just doing it for you. And you said you were going to support him and blah, 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 blah. It defies logic. He should have just said, we'll see what happens. Speak silently, but carry a big stick. We'll see what happens. I'm undecided. Whether Biden runs or not. But you gave away any leverage you had. Biden does need, he's basically been hemorrhaging support across the bases, particularly age 18 to 29, which Bernie was a stronghold for Bernie. Obviously progressive voters, not that all progressive voters or all 18 to 29-year-olds will listen to Bernie if he says, support my friend Joe. But the bottom line is, why the hell would you put this out into the world? Who the hell is advising you? Unless he's legitimately decided, I ain't doing this again. 2 times was enough. But even if you're not going to do it again, why would you say you're going to support him without getting anything? Secondly, Steve, I never got into fraud squad and all this shit. Like I'm a journalist. I'm not going to do these hashtags and shit like this. But AOC, that response shows that she is a classic politician. Rather, if we needed any more verification of that, because she didn't want to just say straight up, well, yeah, we'll see what happens. But I think the president needs to be doing a lot more. Here's what he can do. Here's what he should be doing. Here's who he should be fighting. But she basically, I don't know, she doesn't want to upset Mama Bear or doesn't want to upset the apple cart within the Democratic Party or doesn't want to lose her committee. Who the hell knows? But okay, you won't say you're going to endorse him. Great. But then you say he's doing a very good job. I mean, with progressives like this, no wonder we are where we are.
Truth is not celebrated in this community. I'm not lying. If you violate someone's feelings, it doesn't matter if it's true. It's a post-truth society. Okay. And this is at the activist level. We see it every day on Twitter. It's at the political level. We see it with AOC right there. And we see it with Bernie in his comments for Biden. But let me take a less strident view of Bernie's statement here. I think Bernie is looking at this saying, we've got a lot of irons in the fire, and I don't need to make news right now. I don't.
But you are making news. You are making news. You are making news. You're making news when you preemptively fold the tent and say, no, I'm going to support him.
You're talking to a guy that thinks Bernie's capitulation in 2016 crushed what could have been a major change in this country. To look at the way they swept him in 2020, absolutely kneecapping it, and then watching Biden cuckle around about freaking deficit reduction. So, I mean, I get it. My point is that these politicians are doing what politicians do. They're never going to ruffle the feathers of their party. This is what is wrong, because you're not allowed to criticize. You're not allowed to take issue with. You're not allowed to say that's wrong, here's right, because people get up in their feels. And this is the way the party operates, and this is the way people in general operate. It's terrible. It grosses me out beyond words. It disgusts me, actually. But what are you going to do? I mean, seriously, the average person, if you've seen it, Jordan, if you say something remotely off-putting to someone, something that their heart feels this thing is true, even if it's false. They feel it's true. You say something that violates that, what's going to happen? They're going to destroy you. They're going to go out there and call you a fraud. They're going to go out there and say, oh, I know that guy. He's horrible. He said something. Whatever. They got things to say. The minute you speak truth, these guys are politicians. They got to get elected by a bunch of people who can't stand the truth. They claim they want the truth. You give them the truth. Oh, no, he's mean. I'm telling you right now, this right here, classic of that. It's the outcome of that protective behavior.
But the thing that doesn't make sense to me, Bernie's 80 years old. Okay. God willing, he lives for another 100 years. But this is his last hurrah, basically. Whether he runs for president or not, maybe he's got 5-6 more years as a senator. I don't think he's going to want to be, a senator until he's 90. So at the end of the day, let's say there was still currently a possibility for Biden to deliver something, and there's some behind the scenes thing we don't know about, right? Build Back Better in a scaled back form could pass, or something's going on. Okay. Then you can make the argument, all right, well, he's playing the long game. He's being diplomatic to Biden now because he's working with Biden behind the scenes. But we know nothing's going to happen from now to November. I mean, President Manchin has shut that down, and President Fetal Position, Biden, has refused to use the bully pulpit of the presidency to go after Manchin or Sinema. We've talked about this. I mean, there is something Biden can do on guns, whether it would work or not. I don't know. But he could have used his primetime speech with the candles behind him to put a public crusade on Manchin and Sinema to vote to end the filibuster so we could pass real gun reform, not this bipartisan deal that does a whole lot of nothing. So that just passed. So the fact is, Bernie, you're not getting anything from him unless there's, I'd be happy to have egg on my face, but you're not getting anything from him for proclaiming you'll support him. And you're not just proclaiming you're going to support him. You're basically proclaiming fill in the blank. You're going to support the Democratic Party. So to me, I don't think he's a fraud. I don't think he's a coward. I don't think he's a sellout. I think he's super naive politically. I think he will go down as a revolutionary in spirit who doesn't understand what it takes to actually bring revolution. And it's unfortunate because I don't believe, we've talked about it. We don't think structural change in healthcare, climate, these other things is going to come from electoral politics. That doesn't mean completely abandon electoral politics, right. But I will say, you don't have guerrilla fighters in there. Bernie will fight against the Republicans and he'll fight for policy, but strategically he will not fight. And this is very unstrategic. AOC, the rest of them, look at what they did to Nina Turner. Whether you supported Nina Turner or not, they wouldn't even endorse her. AOC endorsed her 5 minutes before polls open. So we don't have, and people could vote for whoever they want. I'm not telling you what to do, but we don't have bare knuckle brawlers like a Shama Sawant in Washington. And that is a major problem.
Yeah, bare knuckle brawlers don't get a lot of love anyway. They tend to get dogpiled for being bare knuckle brawlers. So I think really the sad thing here is that, we've got people that don't realize Jesse the Body Ventura is a libertarian. He's not a progressive. We got people that think Andrew Yang, who is got more cringe posting out there than any human being on the planet. And Jesse the Body said last night, for example, that we don't have a prayer without Andrew Yang. We need to support Andrew Yang. So I'm just so disgusted and saddened, really heartbroken, that between not understanding economics, between seeing libertarians as the way forward that want to cut spending even more than Biden did, and we're celebrating that, it's like literally a knife in the gut every time I see this stuff. It's like we never learn. It's like we have a conversation one day and the next day we wake up and we have it again. We don't change. We don't grow. We don't expand our knowledge. We don't build on the things we do know. And I'm telling you right now that what you see with not only Biden, but Bernie and the rest of them, this is why I'm telling you all, if we don't find a way to organize beyond the electoral not in the absence of the, let's just get that out of the way so I don't have to say it again, not in absence of the electoral but absolutely Occupy Wall Street level organizing. We could hit rewind and play on almost every show you see on news because it's just a rehash of the same stories. Until we make fundamental change, get used to repeating yourself always, constantly. And so I try to find a different way to say the same thing over and over again. The fact is, this is exactly the wash, rinse, repeat. We have people that still don't understand economics, still don't understand why privatization of everything and cutting spending is bad. And they still celebrate putting libertarians up at the top of a ticket. Folks, I can't make you understand. You got to want to understand. This stuff is not good for us.
Right.
In order for us to thrive, we need a president that's willing to spend, who has a backbone, who understands the economy, because everything you want, every single program you want, every single change you want in America comes from the pen of the president's desk. And unless we do something different, we're going to have to force that through, because the people that are there to do it in office are not going to do it. You're right. They're not bare knuckle brawlers. I am, though. I'm a bare knuckle brawler. You can count on that.
Now, before I get to my next guest, because I'm excited about this, we're going to talk about a Bill of Rights for restaurant workers, which is very important. I want you mentioned doing something different. Status Coup has stayed on the Amazon workers organizing. Their historic victory in Staten Island. I was out there a year before the rest of these Johnny-come-lately media folks. So interestingly enough, as the January 6th committee and the media is holding this like the Super Bowl, the hearings, and I'm all for the hearings. We should find out what led to January 6th. Make sure it doesn't happen again. I think there's a better chance of me getting a six-pack by the time the pool opens than Trump going to prison. But that's another story. But there's another election that they're trying to overturn. Amazon is trying to overturn the historic union victory that we covered for a year of the Staten Island workers, to the point where these workers, Christian Smalls, had to fly to Phoenix because there's a hearing going on the last few days in Phoenix where Amazon is literally coming up with Trump-level ridiculousness about a stolen election, and they're trying to basically void ALU, the Amazon Labor Union's victory. Colin, let's play a little bit of the rally in 104-degree weather, by the way, in Phoenix, outside the hearing.
It's a war. They fired our members as of just last week. They fired another one. Uncle Pat that's been with us. He flipped over 500 workers in the building. And Amazon, seen that in the press conference that we held outside the building, they targeted him ever since then. And they terminated him just last week. So there's going to be casualties on both sides. We know that. But we all know that even though Pat lost his job, he's still going to fight twice as hard, and even now, because they did do him wrong. And we already filed our ULPs representing him and made sure that he's going to try to get his job back with the retro pay. And that goes for any worker that has to deal with retaliatory actions when it comes to this company. The union is supposed to take care of them, and that's what we've been doing. We already have several members. Everybody here has UOPs against Amazon. I can tell you that right now. We already have a member that's already getting his job back, Joe Bryson. He also fought for 10J. Daquan Smith, another one. There's several members that already are in that process, and we're going to continue to do so while we're getting a contract.
So there's more of that. You could watch the full stream up on our YouTube channel. We were out there covering this. We'll continue to cover it. Some of our interviews that we did with the workers will be on Breaking Points on Thursday, I believe, as part of our partnership. But Steve, I don't know, call me old-fashioned. I kind of think it's a big deal that the media should be covering that the second largest company in the United Corporations of America is trying to overturn a union victory, that this man, union guy Joe Biden, he talks so much about unions and I'm a lunch bucket union guy. Not a word at the AFL-CIO event today about Amazon won't accept the election results. They're trying their own stop the steal. To be clear, YouTube, I'm talking about Amazon, not Trump. Biden won the election. Got to put that disclaimer so YouTube doesn't get confused. But it's just insane to me. And by the way, the same Johnny-come-latelys that celebrated the the Amazon victory, they're not covering the fact that Amazon's trying to basically erase this victory. And why this is so important, Amazon is not only trying to stop this union victory, they're trying to stop what's happening with Starbucks, where it's just a historic domino of Starbucks stores I mean, Oklahoma, for God's sakes, just unionized. Texas stores are unionizing at Starbucks. So they're trying to stop this Staten Island warehouse from unionizing because they know if they have to recognize the Staten Island warehouse, it's going to be a lightning rod, a domino from there of other warehouses trying to unionize. I just find it incredible that the media is not covering this.
No, it's absolutely impossible to explain because, well, it's not impossible to explain. Their handlers don't want you to cover it. I mean, no corporation that doesn't have a union inside of it wants a union inside of it. Why? Because a union starts to balance the power a little bit. A union, somebody said it perfectly. A union that's afraid to strike, though, is a paper tiger. If you know Sarah Nelson, who is the head of the airlines union, she said there is no such thing as an illegal strike, only an effective one or an ineffective one. In my opinion, right now, unions themselves have been hamstrung by their leadership, and the media and the elite are working hand in hand with the elites of these unions across the country, and they've turned their back on Amazon. You don't see people out there fighting for it beyond. They're kept in this little teeny container, and it's not an accident. They don't want us to unionize. They don't want us to collectively do anything. Anytime we decide we're not happy with the power elite's decisions, they squash us more. So expect more of this. This is the whole thing with a counter revolution. Anytime you do anything, you want to go after, like, for example, this January 6th commission. I've got real mixed emotions about it because I'm a revolutionary on one hand. And on the other hand, though, I see the Proud Boys 3% Oath Keepers who are jacked up to the gills with guns and have been prepping for a day like this forever. Okay. I see that and I go, oh, wow. I don't care about all the hype behind the scenes about what they could have done, conspiracy crap. I don't care about that. I can tell you right now, anytime people step up and try to unionize or organize OWS, they are there to crush it. There's no difference here. So what you're seeing right now with the media not covering this, with Joe Biden, who leans into Christian Smalls and says, you're going to get me in trouble. Well, Joe Biden's making up for getting in trouble, right? Joe Biden's making up for it by just ignoring it. And this is going to continue.
Absolutely. Which brings me, delighted to have Eva. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Eva Putsova. Did I get that right?
Almost, Eva Putsova,
okay,
but good enough.
Eva Putsova, thanks for coming on. You are the here we go. You are the National Political Director, Restaurant Opportunities Center United, and I'm glad to have you on because it basically connects to everything we've been talking about. There really is very little protection for restaurant workers in this country. I think the pandemic, even more so than people knew, showed that restaurant workers are not protected, whether it be in terms of wages, tips, workplace harassment, terrible conditions, now being forced to go back into work. I mean, I could go on and on. But can you kind of talk about, you guys right now have a campaign for a restaurant workers' Bill of Rights. Tell me about that.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. So I'm with Restaurant Opportunity Centers United. We are the oldest and the largest restaurant workers-led organization in the country. And, this conversation about workers' rights is so very important, especially as people are facing inflation, which we know is caused because of corporate greed. And time again, we see that reforms are slow and insufficient. So restaurant industry, just for everyone to know, is about 14 million people industry. It's about $800 billion in revenue industry. And 1 in 2 Americans at some point in their lives work in a restaurant. What that means is that the kind of labor standards we see in the industry are often the standards that people expect as being the norm, right? And if the norm is so low, if the bar is so low, then sometimes our ambitions are not as high of what we should demand from employers. So, and you were right to say that the COVID pandemic just exacerbated the injustices and challenges and issues that restaurant workers have been facing in the industry all along. Some of you may know that 7 of the lowest 10 occupations are in the restaurant industry. And actually, restaurant workers file more sexual harassment claims than employees in any other industry. Restaurant workers are among the people who live in poverty at about 2.5 times the rate of general workforce. The issues that restaurant workers face are really extremely challenging. It's difficult for them to raise families, to just take care of the basics. We did, as an organization, we also do a lot of research, and we recently released a COVID impact study, and we actually found out that 85% of respondents reported loss in wages. 91% have not received any hazardous pay for those hazardous conditions. 34% had no access to personal protective equipment, and 1 in 10 workers went to work being sick with COVID. And that's not because they wanted to go to work sick, but because they have almost no sick leave, and there's a huge pressure for them to be at work because that's the only time they make money. So what we as an organization, we've been over the last 20 years, we've been working very hard organizing workers so we can improve so they can improve, I should say, their working conditions and wages. But we also know that during this COVID pandemic, we kind of saw a glimpse of huge solidarity with essential workers. And we see it in other sectors when workers are organizing. And so we are working with our members and other restaurant workers to create what we call the Restaurant Workers Bill of Rights. And if there are any restaurant workers listening right now, I'd love to invite them to just text this phrase, Bill of Rights, all one word, Bill of Rights, to a number 40817. So, and you can participate in this process and provide input and shape this Bill of Rights. We have had some preliminary conversations with about just under 100 restaurant workers, our members, and we created a concept bill around 5 areas of rights. And I can just very briefly describe them, but it's something that is, obviously not just restaurant workers should have, but every worker. And that is thriving wage. Raising the minimum wage is not enough. We know that. In the restaurant industry, the median wage for restaurant worker is just under $12, while living wage, according to MIT calculator, which considers one adult and one child, is $31.90 in the United States. So $12 and almost $32. That's a big difference. And that's why when we talk about wages, we talk about thriving wages, because restaurant workers and other workers deserve that. So thriving wages, one of the rights, healing and rest. Everybody needs paid time off. And it's not only the sick leave, but also vacation. How come we are one of maybe it's just the only country among the developed so-called industrialized countries that does not require employers to provide vacation time? It's ridiculous, right? We need time for people to heal when they're sick, but they also need a rest. Restaurant workers and all workers deserve a safe and dignified work environment. They should not worry about ICE or other agencies coming to their workplace and harassing them. Restaurant workers, as I mentioned, file more sexual harassment claims than any other group of workers in the country, and we have to solve this issue. Restaurant workers should not be harassed, but by customers, by coworkers, or by managers. Just like everybody else, restaurant workers deserve universal health care, and we must decouple healthcare from employment. I think we hear stories every day about just how inhumane our healthcare system is. And oftentimes people like to confuse health insurance with healthcare, which are not the same. And then finally, our workers, as all workers, deserve to participate in democracy in their workplaces, but also in their own communities. So we are inviting restaurant workers to shape this Restaurant Workers Bill of Rights. Again, text Bill of Rights, one word, to 40817. And on Labor Day, our organization is going to release the first public Restaurant Workers Bill of Rights. We're going to also create a federal resolution and ask Congress to pass it and implement policies that would lead to these rights becoming a reality.
Steve, I know you got to go, so I wanted to ask you real quick. You and I have talked about this often. I mean, the ugly secret of a lot of the jobs that came back that Biden is pontificating about are in the hospitality industry, i.e. restaurant workers. And as Eva just described, I hate to say it, they're not living wage jobs. There is no stability. So that's kind of, the lipstick on a pig, not just Biden, but all presidents like to put on when they throw out those job numbers. These are not vibrant jobs. What do you think of this Bill of Rights? And do you have any questions for Eva?
Oh, no, I think it's fantastic. I got to tell you, I just talked to Harvey K the other day. Great, knowledgeable dude that's putting out a 21st century Bill of Rights that this should marry up with. It would be neat for you to get together with Harvey K and see if we can start building some more of these coalitions, because I think what you're talking about is fantastic. And you're right, the precarity baked into these jobs. These are jobs that are not intended to be long-term. They intend to be able to bring you on and fire you just as quickly as they brought you in. If they don't like you, get on. And they really are almost just a step above gig work in terms of the protections you have. So you have got to fight for that. We've got to fight for improving the working conditions and create stability for families. Because, I mean, when you're talking about putting food on the table and you're talking about making plans, it's impossible to make any plans if every day you wake up in the morning wondering if you've got a job or not, wondering if today is going to be the day. So you have my full support in whatever way I can provide it.
Absolutely.
And I think what you said, that, these jobs are not necessarily good jobs. I think what we have to demand is that every job becomes a good job, because frankly, these are the jobs that are here and they will always be here, right? So we cannot just treat some jobs, these are just jobs for, this is just your first job. Why should the first job suck? Why
exactly
when you're 18-year-old, you should have a lousy job that does not provide healthcare, that does not provide living wage, that does not provide retirement benefits, that does not provide vacation or paid sick leave. Restaurant workers are, I think, unfortunately, in this specific sector, we have workers that are treated as subhumans. We have actually a lot of workers working for tipped wage, which at the federal level is $2.13, and it's been like that since 1996. Thanks to Herman Cain. Actually, it was during the Bill Clinton era where they decoupled the tipped wage from the minimum wage. Before that, it was pegged to the regular minimum wage at the 50% level. It's not that it would go up much, right? Since the regular minimum wage is $7.25. But the other NRA, talking about NRA these days a lot, but there's this other organization called NRA as well, National Restaurant Association, that is working very hard, lobbying very hard to make sure that the restaurant workers continue to live in poverty. And we have to change that. And so look out for those contributions from the restaurant industry to political candidates.
Absolutely. Tell people once again where they could find out more and where they could text.
So you can go to rockunited.org, and that's the organization, rocunited.org, and you can always support us. There's a donate button. And you can text us. That's the best way to learn more about Restaurant Workers' Bill of Rights. And the text number is 40817, 40817. And the term to text is Bill of Rights, one word. And then you can also check out another website that we maintain, and it's stateoftherestaurantworkers.org. And we have their COVID impact report. You can find all kinds of statistics about the restaurant workforce and join us. And of course, always feel free to email me. My email is eva@rocunited.org.
Thank you so much for taking the time. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
I'm putting it on the screen as we speak so people can see. Text 40817. Bill of Rights. Text 40817. Bill of Rights. Thanks, Eva.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve Grumbine. Everybody, make sure you tune in Thursday night, 8 o'clock Eastern prime time. Let's get ready to grumble. Steve, any idea what's coming up this week?
I do, but I'm not going to say.
Okay. Okay. Also check out Steve, plug Real Progressives.
Yeah, so check out on Real Progress in Action. We have 2 YouTube channels. One's Real Progress in Action, one's Real Progressives. Go to Real Progress in Action. You can catch my Rogue Scholar Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon. Sometimes I do some crazy late night marathons. So if you're into just chitty chatting with me, you can sometimes find me late at night as well. But I also deliver a Saturday morning podcast called Macro and Cheese. I promise you it's worth your time. And of course, I get to hang out here with Jordan. So I really appreciate you guys. You guys are my extended family. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And before we go, I want to shout out because we got some new members yesterday. Welcome new Status Coup members, Danielle, Kevin, Courtney, Alex, Annette, James. So that's 6 members yesterday. I need 600 more. No, I'd like 600 more. If you're new to Status Coup, we're funded by you. Right now, we're working on some ideas for more on the ground reporting and trips. If you don't know, I tore my ACL, so I'm trying, my best not to be traveling so much because I'm doing physical therapy for my ACL. But we're definitely still trying to figure out ways to get on the road. Particularly, we want to get on the road and cover inflation. How are people dealing with this? High gas, food, electricity, everything. So stay tuned for announcements on us getting back on the road. Might go back to Flint and a couple other places too. And this is going to make me sound like a boomer. We're now on TikTok, and I'm going to TikTok right after this. We're going to do a quick live stream on the TikTok. So if you're cool, if you're a Gen Zer or one of these TikTokers or even an old person who knows, is down with the TikTok, head over to Status Coup. Colin, how do they do that on the TikTok? They just go to Status Coup on TikTok?
Yeah, you just search Status Coup at Status Coup, and it should come up. You should see one of our clips, and you can click it and then click profile.
Colin, hold on. Tell me honestly, did Jordan not just sound like your grandma going, "Did you smoke the marijuana? Are you on the pot?"
Yeah, I appreciate the in front of TikTok.
So we're going to the TikTok. We're going to the TikTok next.
We're going smoking the devil's cabbage.
But I got to tell you, I mean, YouTube does a fabulous job of hiding us. But on TikTok, we're getting, 60,000 views on some of these videos, 100,000. We had a video that did 250,000. The question is, how do we get these TikTokers over to the YouTube channel? So if anyone has ideas how to get, you get 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 views on a TikTok video, how do we get them over to the YouTube channel? Because that would be a great cheat code around this YouTube suppression. So we'll see. But I'm headed over to TikTok. We're going to do a quick stream there, going over some things, including my Flint rant from yesterday. So I will hopefully see you guys over at TikTok if you're on there. And we'll be back here tomorrow, 5 o'clock Eastern time. And make sure, because we're paying enough for it, make sure you sign up for our text list so you get a text message when we're live. StatusCoup.com/text. Type it in, type your number. It's free. We only text you when we're live. We won't text you for anything else. StatusCoup.com/text. And make a habit. Go to StatusCoup.com, surf around, put your email in there so you get emails, updates from us, and all that good stuff. I'm going to TikTok now. Thank you, Steve. Everybody check out Steve on Real Progressives. And everybody have a nice night.